Hello and welcome to episode 23 of the Watch It Bro podcast. I am Tristan,
And I am Marshall.
and like a true nature's child, we are in fact born to be wild.
That's good. I like it.
Thank you, because today we are talking about Wild America, and
Woo.
not the Nature series, the actual movie based on the Nature series.
Yeah. From the
This is
mid
one,
90s,
yeah, 1997 actually.
late 90s
Yeah, I guess that does qualify as late 90s, doesn't it?
does.
And this is one that we watched apparently less than I thought growing up because you had no memory of it whatsoever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I recall watching it quite a few times. We watched it in theaters, I'm positive. Because
I
every single time they said, Marshall, you would elbow me and smile.
so watching this movie,
Did
I'm
it bring
I'm
anything back?
it brought back scenes every once in a while, and I feel like they were from the trailer, but I have no I most of the time through the movie I'm like, this is all brand new to me.
Okay.
There was things here and there like, "Oh, I remember that. I didn't know it was from this movie, but I remember that scene."
You watched it. I'm positive we watched it.
It clearly had an impact on me,
No kidding.
which is weird because, like you said, there's a character named Marshall. I'm like, that should have stood out to me.
You were obnoxious with pointing out all the marshals that we'd see in movies. Do you remember that?
I mean, I don't remember there being many.
Like we'd watch the credits. Oh, Gary Marshall. Oh, Marshall. Oh, Marshall. Ha ha ha. There's never a Tristan. Like, yeah, no, thanks.
Yeah, that sounds like me.
Yeah, we should have watched Troy.
But, or Tristan and his old
That
was
wasn't
older
out yet.
Tristan? I know.
Troy was. Of course, I was a little young for the content of that movie, but I
War
digress.
epic.
All right, shall we get into the specs of this thing?
Yeah, let's get into the specs.
All right, we have Wild America. It was directed by William Deere. It was written by David Michael Weinger.
Davel.
Davel. Yeah, David and Michael together is Davel. It's
Sorry, Dave.
early. Give me a break. What's up, David? Mr. Weiger. It is starring Jonathan Taylor Thomas, who, let's face it, you know who he is.
Yes.
This is around the height of his career. He was
Right. Well,
just
anybody listening to this podcast knows who he is. I don't think anybody born within the last 20 years know who he is.
fair. But yes, he was in things like Home Improvement. He voiced Simba in The Lion King. He was in Tom and Huck.
Oh yeah.
He was also in Man of the House with Chevy Chase.
Yes. For some reason, I kept thinking he was in Jungle to Jungle, but that was just Tim Allen, and the Home Improvement connection was pushing them together in my head.
Right. Because that was Sam Huntington.
Good pull.
Thank you. I only know that because my best friend Sandy, shout out Sandy, had a big crush on Sam Huntington. So that's if you don't know who Jonathan Taylor Thomas is, check out those movies because they are fantastic. Also check out Jungle to Jungle. It's a pretty good one too. Spoilers. In case it comes up on the podcast.
Spoilers. It's a good movie. Oh yeah.
Next we have Devin Sawa, who was also a teen heartthrob at this time. And he was in movies such as Little Giants, Casper, Now and Then, Idle Hands, Final Destination, and he was Stan in the Eminem video, Stan,
Oh,
which I never pieced together.
interesting. Yeah, I don't think I knew the other two kids in this movie at all growing up.
Oh, like Devin Sawa and Scott Bairstow.
Yeah.
Speaking of Scott Bairstow, we have to cover him because he is in the movie, but his career was cut very short, and he got arrested in Everett, Washington, for getting himself into a lot of legal trouble, the kind where you are no longer allowed to be around children, unfortunately. And
Huh.
I didn't know that when I picked this movie. I found out after and was kind of like, oh, if I'd have known that, I might not have actually picked the movie for the podcast.
Interesting.
Yeah, unfortunate. Very unfortunate. This movie was released July 2nd, 1997. And as I said in the last episode, it is our first movie that is based on a true story. Loosely. I think pretty loosely. And it's based on the lives of documentarian Marty Stouffer and his two brothers, Mark and Marshall.
Yes, it is.
Thank you for chiming in on that.
You're welcome.
Are you looking something up right now?
I was, because the year it came. Okay, I was thinking about when it came out, and like it feels like there was another really big movie that came out about that time, but it was a year earlier when Independence Day came out. So
Yeah. Well, that rounds out the specs of our movie. Shall we get into the film?
yeah, let's get into it.
All right. So it starts off with intro credits, basically words over a black screen, and you hear a kid running over top of it.
Yes.
And then eventually it turns to you actually see it's Jonathan Taylor Thomas. He's running through the woods, and words pop up saying Fort Smith, Arkansas, 1967. And then we get narrations by, I'm going to name him now. He is playing Marshall. This is going to be a
Woo!
weird, interesting podcast
It,
episode.
it is. So many marshals.
There's going to be a lot of Marshalls throughout this one, but he is running through the woods and he is narrating that his brothers chased him a lot. They always caught him, but in their defense, he never died.
True.
But they were always chasing him to film him doing something dangerous. And then we get into the brothers catching him and strapping him to a chair, hanging it above a giant metal pool of some kind. It looks like a watering hole for cows, like a watering bathing bin. I
Yeah,
don't know.
but I think it was just an above ground pool they had.
Yeah, it's definitely metal.
Yeah.
And they tell him to not to worry. This kind of thing is good for him.
I mean, things weren't really plastic in the 60s. It was metal
No.
and wood.
Right, right. And so they got him hoisted up above this pool. They tell him that he better not think about breaking out of the chair and coming up for air until he counts to 15. And
Yeah.
they cut the rope and drop him down in. You see Devin Sawa's character. Well, okay, I call him Mark because he is Mark. He starts lighting firecrackers, and dropping them down into the pool. Because, as they say, every good movie needs an explosion.
Yes.
And eventually he gets to 15, pops up, and gets out of there. They're all cheer for the shot that they got. It was awesome. And then they send Marshall walking towards the house. And, growing up, sometimes I'm glad that you guys didn't do this to me when you and Mike would get together.
Well, I apparently never saw this movie, so I didn't get the idea.
I'm very thankful of that.
Because we had a video camera. Well, Grandpa did.
Yes, we did for various films. Or
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I never threw fireworks at you.
no, you were never that mean. Your friends were, but
Some of them.
some of them, yes. So we cut to Marshall getting ready to go in the house. His mom tells him not to basically tells him, you strip down because I don't want water getting into my house. And the mom is played by Frances Fisher,
Yes.
who was in Titanic.
Mm-hmm.
Fun fact.
Okay.
Did you have a fun fact?
I did, but you go first.
I'll let you go first.
No, you go first.
She was the original Jill Taylor in Home Improvement, but
Yes, she was.
audiences didn't respond well to her, and so she was recast with
Patricia
something. Patricia Richardson?
Yes, I believe.
I wanted to say Patricia Heaton, but that's Deborah and Raymond. Gosh, what would I keep in my brain if I didn't like movies and TV so much?
I don't know. Yes, Patricia Richardson.
Patricia Richardson. There we go. Was that your fun fact?
That was also my fun fact.
Was it?
Yes, it was, but that's okay.
Well, I got more coming up. Do you have more coming up?
Yes, I got more. Oh, yeah, I got more fun facts and more opinions.
Good. And more opinions?
Yes.
Terrific. All right. So, yeah, we see Marshall enter the house in his skivvies. And then we cut to him being a good little helper and cleaning the toilet with a toothbrush, which I mean that's very good, that's hard to do and very detailed cleaning. And then we see him put the toothbrushes back into his brother's toothbrush holders, so he's not being helpful after all.
Yes, he enjoys his little jokes.
He does.
His little payback that only he knows about, which is fine.
It is.
Like, this is my own revenge.
I wonder if he's like making a journal of like all these things to date, clean toilet with your toothbrush. So when they move out, here you go. So one day they'll get to see all the stuff that he did behind their backs. But we find out through Marshall's narrations that though they live on a big chunk of property,
Yeah,
and they're all big animal people, and the mom is always taking in animals and rescuing them and raising them and nursing them back to health and sending them back out, or the more domesticated ones kind of just stay.
right.
And I cannot imagine all the handlers that had to go into this movie.
Yeah, there were a lot of animals.
There were. Um, we meet one here in just a second as Marshall goes up to his room and we see Leona, his owl.
Thank you for saying that. I was gonna call her Winona.
No, it's Leona.
Oh,
Yeah, I watched the movie again last night.
that's good. I probably should have.
Yeah, would have helped.
Nah, it's up here.
Yeah, and yeah, so Leona is his favorite. She was an owl with a hurt wing, and they're nursing her back to health, and she's his favorite.
Yes. She's got a little perch right by his bed.
Yep. And then we meet Leon.
Leon is great.
Leon is great. I like Leon. I did not get the name of Leon, but Leon was a friend of their dad's from the war, and he just kind of followed him home.
Yeah. Leon is Tracy Walter.
Okay.
And fun fact, well, not fun fact. He was in the Michael Keaton Batman movie from '89.
89.
Yep, and he played Joker's right hand man, Bob.
I did not know that.
And I thought that was fantastic because I always liked Bob.
Gosh, I haven't seen that movie in decades.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Well, been a long time, yeah. So we cut to Marshall looking at planes, or at a plane. His dad was apparently a pilot
Hmm.
in the war, and he had bought a little plane that he's fixing up so that he and Marshall can fly it.
I believe said his dad was a mechanic in the war, and after they fixed up the planes, he'd take it up and fly around.
That sounds right.
Because him and Leon worked on the planes together. It's like, okay, we're all good. You gotta test this out, fly it around, come back, and
I thought Leon fixed him and he'd fly him.
but they both fixed him, and he'd fly him.
Something like that. I, I thought I'd remember. I apologize. I don't particularly remember the chain of events there. But he has a plane. He traded
Yeah,
$300, carburetor, and a '57 Chevy for it. And while Marshall's reminiscing and sitting in the plane, uh, his brothers come in with their friends, and friends in quotations, because they're all kind of jerks.
yeah. It seems like one of those things from that they did in movies, from small towns and stuff. Like you didn't really have friends in the town. You just had the other kids that were either there and you cohabitated with.
Yeah, you acted like friends, but you,
Yeah.
yeah, may or may not. But we get Zach Ward playing DC. And if
Yes.
you don't know who Zach Ward is, he was Scut Fargus in A Christmas Story.
And he was Scott Fargus in A Christmas Story.
I never saw that one.
Officer Scott Fargus.
He was also in other TV shows such as Dollhouse
Hmm.
and Z Nation.
I believe he was in like most of the Law and Orders too, but
I didn't see those. I
what?
did watch Dollhouse and Z Nation. But yeah, so they all come in, they're rearranging old car seats. Not children's car seats, but actual seats that go in cars. Putting up a projector, and Marty is showing the home movies of the boys getting hurt
Yeah.
when they're stunts. It's like that Johnny Knoxville show before that Johnny Knoxville show.
You don't want me
If
to
you
say
grew,
it?
nope. If you grew up in the early 2000s, you know exactly what show I'm talking about. They just had a comeback a couple years back.
Hi, I'm Johnny Knoxville. Welcome to
Yeah, the craze that swept over the nation for about a decade and sent many a kid to the emergency room.
Yeah. Yeah, the fourth movie came out a few years back.
Yep.
I
So
laughed.
we, yep. So we, Marshall's talking about how the kids get together. They do this regularly and watch the same home movies, and everybody's acting like it's the first time they've seen it every time. We get Marty jumping through a ring of fire, Mark trying to fly, to name a couple things that happen in there.
Yeah.
And then we cut, kind of harshly cut, to the boys brushing their teeth and
I
Marshall laughing at them.
I'll bring it up at the end.
At the end?
Yeah, yeah, I'll bring it up at the there's watching this movie through, it feels like they filmed way more than they needed to for an actual full-length movie, and they had to cut big chunks out.
Yeah.
Sometimes it felt a little disjointed, like, that's an odd cut. There should have been more of a better transition, or scenes didn't go as long as they felt like they should have for some reason.
I noticed that too. It was kind of, it tended to jump, almost feel like it jumped around
Yeah,
from scene to scene of like, okay, well, this works to go to the next scene,
yeah,
but it's not complete. Anyway, so they cut to the boys brushing their teeth, and Marshall is laughing at them.
yeah, yep, his little joke is paying off.
Yep. I have no idea what this means. Oh, yeah. So then, I mean, you just get that quick little scene of I guess the payoff for the toilet scrubbing, so we can, I don't, just kind of throws back to that,
Yeah,
so we can be aware that, oh, he got him, and then it's just a short scene, and then we cut to Marty's looking at a magazine with his mom, I guess,
yeah.
and Marshall's eavesdropping, and then Dad gets home, and the older boys run out to get to work, and Marshall's got his little eavesdropping spot where he just sits there and listens, and Dad gets in the house, and he does. It's not a good character introduction.
It's not, and as somebody that didn't remember the movie at all, I'm like, is the dad a good dad? Do they like him?
Does his
Is
wife
he
like him? Because he's
is
not.
is he is he a jerk? Is
Yeah.
what kind of dad is this guy? Because he doesn't seem great right now.
No, he walks in puffing on a cigar and like no affection to his wife whatsoever. Like one of the first things he says is where's our troubles?
Yeah.
And then what's for dinner?
I mean, it is the '60s.
True, but like I mean that's still pretty callous.
Yeah.
And then he asks what's for dinner and she says
Pot pie.
wasn't pot pie.
Pretty sure it was a pot pie.
Fried chicken. Fried chicken. And he goes, "What else?" So lima beans that you like from the can, and then apple pie.
Mm. Apple
And
pie.
and then he asks store bought or homemade, and she says, "What do you take me for?" And then she makes him go clean up. And then Marshall comes in and she explains to him what a white lie is. It's important because it
Yes.
comes back up. And then we cut to dinner with everyone,
Mhm.
and Marshall's narrating over the top of it and talking about how they liked it when Dad was home, and how everything was different down to who got what piece of chicken, and you see the dad slap Mark in the back of the head and tell him to give his mom one of those chicken legs.
Yep.
So very, I guess, very 1960s. I don't know.
He was more strict.
Yeah, yeah,
But not a jerk dad, just kind of strict and in his own way.
yeah. I think that's what they're going for.
Right, right. But like you said, it was a very bad introduction to the character. It had me wondering for a little bit of what this guy was like. If it's like, are they going out to film because they don't like it at home? It's like,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
Yeah, and like I've seen this before a few times, and within the last 5 years, and every time I see that, I'm like, is the dad a jerk? I don't remember.
Yeah.
And yeah, but anyway, so we cut to Marshall talking about plane stuff, and he's holding the light for his dad, and they're working on the plane. Well, working on the plane. Dad's working on the plane. Marshall's holding the light for him, and Dad's quizzing him on how to start up the plane and how to fly, and he's answering everything. So, and then he asks his dad to tell him about the clouds, and apparently you slice through them like butter.
Yep.
And I don't know if you've ever tried to slice through butter, but it is not an easy thing to do, especially when it's in the refrigerator.
True. It's like slicing through warm butter with a hot knife.
Yeah, that would be a better description of it. And then Marshall asks, "Birds get out of the way, right?" Which I think that's a thought we've all had.
Yeah. And
especially when
sometimes
you're
they do, and sometimes they don't.
sometimes, yeah, especially when you're flying commercial. Sometimes they just get sucked right through the engine. And then, yeah, he tells Marshall to go to bed because it's late. And so we get Marshall laying, all the boys actually, they all share a room and they're all laying in bed. And you can hear off in the distance the dad singing a song called "Good Old Mountain Dew,"
Yeah,
which
I was happy to see that.
which is an Appalachian folk song. And there are actually two lyrical versions of the song. One is from 1928 by Bascom Lunsford, and one is from 1935 by Scotty Wiseman. Both are about moonshine,
Yes.
and both have the same tune.
Okay.
I'm not sure which version this is. It doesn't say.
Okay.
It didn't say which version he is singing. But apparently, that when Dad was home, that is the lullaby that they would fall asleep to every night. Rounded out with a fart, apparently, because that's funny.
Yeah.
Did you have anything to add to that scene?
No, I didn't.
Okay, because it looked like you kind of might have, but
Nope.
okay. So we cut to the next day, and they are mud racing.
Yes.
DC and Marty. DC and Marty.
Yes. And
And Mark is filming the whole thing from the passenger seat.
yeah, when they were in the barn watching the videos before, DC was mocking their little mud racing cart that they had. Like, that's not gonna be ready in time, and it's not gonna beat my truck.
Right. Well, it turns out he was wrong because Marty wins.
Yes.
And DC lifts it up and says, "Well, no wonder my outweighs you by 500 pounds." So he challenges him to a rematch. Says he grabs a car hood and says, "You have to tow this behind with your little brother in it." And Marty immediately says, "You do not tell me what to do with my little brother. Marshall, get in the hood."
Yeah. Marshall smiling for a second, like, yeah, they got my back. Oh.
Nope. Yeah. And then we get the rematch, and they win again. And the rope breaks, and Marshall goes flying in the hood, and then out of the hood.
Yeah, I like, okay, he's gonna break something, they're gonna be in trouble, something's gonna happen. Like, nope, it's fine. They win. He's all muddy and the gets attention from the college girls.
Yes, college girls show up, and everybody is smitten with the college girls. And Mark, very poor taste, very, very poor taste, flirts with one of the college girls, literally sitting next to his own girlfriend.
Yes.
But after the match, after the race, excuse me, the college girls run up to check to see if Marshall is okay, and then proceed to make fun of Marty for having the idea to do that, and tells him to grow up, and then call them when he does.
Yep.
And you get kind of a touching moment of where Marty admits to Marshall that it was a stupid idea all around, and you see Marshall kind of appreciative of that. And then we cut to, like I said, a lot of harsh cuts in this,
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
lot of
It's like,
almost unfinished scenes.
yeah, unfinished scenes or cut down for time. It's like we filmed a lot. Like, oh yeah, we did.
Yeah, and then because we cut pretty much from there to them, they're getting in the camera store, getting the film developed or getting a new reel put
Yeah.
together or something, and that's when they spot the very nice camera,
Yes.
and it was used for the news,
Hmm.
and yeah, they're looking through it, or Marty's looking through it, and this part was great. He's filming in the store, or not? He's not filming it, but he's just looking through it, and he sees the dog, and he pans back over to Marty and nope to Mark and Marshall, and then he goes back to the dog, but the dog's alive, and then he just screams in the middle of the store and scares everybody.
Yeah.
Which I thought was hilarious every time I watched it. So we cut back now, and it's later that night, and Mom and Dad are alone in their room, and they're discussing the camera for the boys. And Dad is like, "No way! I carved this business out of nothing. They're gonna sit here. This is their future. They're gonna dip carbs and carry on the family business." And Mom's like, "Absolutely not. You raised them to go out and chase their dreams. They're gonna do it, and if you're not gonna give them the money for the camera, I'm gonna take it out of my Hawaii fund."
Yeah.
And counts to three.
Yes.
You get the old brother without that reference.
Mm.
Okay,
Count to three. I said my piece.
good. Yep. Which she does. The next day, Marty asks Mom what Dad said, and Mom says that he didn't. And then Dad walks in, kind of smacks him, and says, I'm gonna lend you the money with interest." Grabs someone's glass of orange juice off the table, drinks half of it, sets it back down, and goes to unload his truck. And then we, the boys, run out to help, and then we cut to them hunting.
Yeah.
Like,
Another disjointed cut.
yeah. And as I'm going through my notes, I'm just like, should I? It's not transitioning smoothly.
It's because the movie didn't transition smoothly.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. But okay, so they're going hunting now, and they all got their bow and arrows. DC's there, and he apparently hunts with a crossbow.
Yeah.
And Marshall's got what appears to be a toy bow.
Yeah, it's not good looking.
No, and so they spot a doe,
A deer?
a female deer. We did it!
Yeah.
Yay, it worked. Apparently, in 1967, you couldn't shoot does with, at least with a bow.
Well, I think that was their own philosophy too, because the does you shoot the bucks because the does have more deer, and I know a
Right,
lot of hunt do that too. I
right.
don't know
Well, I
anything
know,
about hunting, but
yeah, and I mean, I'm not sure what hunting regulations were back in the 1960s. I know, like
if it
now,
moves, kill it.
maybe. I know now there's a lot of regulations. A lot of guys I work with, they hunt deer and elk and all that, and like there's like deer season is coming up, but it's deer rifle season.
Yeah.
So they just finished deer bow hunting season. So they have different seasons for like hunting with bows, and like sometimes you can't shoot does, or you got to get a doe tag or whatnot. A lot of regulations on what you can and can't do nowadays. But
Hmm. Help maintain the population.
yeah, but apparently at this point you do not shoot does
For
when you're
one reason or the
hunting
other.
with the Stouffer boys. But DC does anyway.
Yes.
Kind of takes a willy-nilly shot and shoots the deer, and it runs off. And Marty scolds him and then gives him a knife and says, "Hey, you need to go finish it off because it's inhumane to leave it suffering and like that. You got to go take care of your kill."
Yeah.
And DC just kind of looks.
It's like I'm not doing that. I did the thing already.
Yeah, he looks like he standing there looking like a coward, and Marty runs off and finishes the deer, and the brothers kind of have a moment where they're like, kind of reconsidering the whole hunting thing,
Yeah.
which was this their first time hunting,
No, I don't think so. I mean, they're
or is this one just the one that kind of gets
mm,
them to reconsider
be the
hunting?
one to get into it, get into their heads a little bit.
Because they catch up with Marty, and he's down there and he's holding the deer and it's gone, and um, they're kind of they're telling him that he did the right thing by taking the deer out.
Yeah.
And then we cut to later that night. Marty's in the garage watching the footage that he has of the doe on the camera, and Marshall's narrating and says that Marty had told them that the exposure wasn't right on the deer footage, and they didn't believe him, but no one said anything about it. And then Marshall walks in talking to Marty, and something I glossed over earlier is Marty is really into Ernest Hemingway,
Hmm.
and so when they're watching the footage of the doe, Marshall comes in and asks if Marty figures that if Hemingway had a camera instead of a gun, if he thinks he would have filmed him instead of shoot him.
Yeah. Hemingway was a big hunter, big game hunter.
hmm And Marty's like, yeah, I never thought of that. Kind of a touching scene right there. And then we have a very abrupt cut to the boys cleaning carbs the next day.
Yep.
And Marshall doesn't really do anything. It doesn't really seem like he helps much because
He's
he's sitting in the cab and he's like, "Can I blow the air horn, Dad?"
he's like,
And he
yeah,
goes,
just
"You can
once,
do it twice, Squirt."
twice. Yes.
And Dad calls him Squirt.
Hmm.
Forgot to mention that comes back. And they're getting ready to go out on a route, and Marty's like telling Mark, lobby for yourself to go instead of me. Go drive, because Marty wants to go tour the country and doesn't want to go on the truck route. He wants to go filming animals instead.
Hmm.
So Mark asks. Mark gets shot down pretty quick, and it kind of just gets squashed right there for a minute, it seems.
Yeah.
And then it goes to that cuts to that evening where Marty's talking to Marshall about how he can't stop thinking about filming him instead of shooting him like he said, and comes up with a big old plan. We cut to the next day. Mom and Marty are talking about it. He goes, "Did you tell your?" And she asks if he told his father, and he just kind of looks awkwardly, and then goes out there and tells Dad. And Dad's like, "You're not going anywhere." And so he starts following his dad into the garage, and his dad's like shutting doors in his face and just not having it. But he makes a good point, and then Mark jumps in too and starts making more points.
Yep.
It's like, who asked you? And Mark just says, well, I'm going with him. And then Marshall jumps on the bandwagon and helps out too, and everyone just tells him to beat it.
Yeah. Like beat a kid.
Yeah. And then Dad relents and says they have till the end of summer.
Yep.
So we get Mark and Marty talking about their game plan. They're gonna go for the predators. They're gonna go for the scariest, the shots that everyone's afraid to get. They're gonna go for the ones that'll kill you real quick. And then Mark gets the idea that he wants to, we got to do the Blood Brothers thing, or whatever.
Right. It's like, we are brothers. What are you talking
We are
about?
Blood Brothers, and he's like, yeah, but like we got to do something. And so they decide that they're going to heat up a metal rod and send a drop of melted
Metal
metal
down
their back.
down their shirt. Yeah.
And I have a question.
Okay.
I've never done anything like that before. Because I know with a lot of things how it reacts when it touches skin. It does not just roll off. It sticks.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if melted metal would actually have rolled down their back the way it did, or if it would have hit and just stuck there.
I don't know.
But for the movie, it trickles down their back and their leg, and they kick it out and stomp on it and pick it up, and that's their thing.
Yeah.
It's very anticlimactic.
Yeah.
And completely unnecessary. I mean, I guess it's showing the bond, and Marshall's in the plane
Right.
watching, and he's
Yep,
like, only
like
an
he
idiot
does.
would do that. But if they'd asked me, I'd have done it in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Marshall's sitting around being creepy again, watching them.
He does that a lot.
He does.
Yep. So we cut to the next day. The boys are packing up and leaving.
Mm-hmm.
Marshall's nowhere to be seen. He's down by the lake with Leona.
Yep.
Dad won't come out and see the boys off. It's just
He's
Leon.
mad.
It's just Leon and Mom. And so they pack up. They say, tell the squirt bye. And they take off, leaving out of town. And as they're passing, apparently there's a gas station that's the regular hangout gas station and a drive-in. Looks
Yeah.
like they throw a firecracker at DC, and he throws his milkshake all over himself, and it's funny
Yeah.
because teenage antics.
Yep. And DC's a
And,
jerk.
yep. And then we get "Born to Be Wild" by Steppenwolf playing
Mm-hmm.
for the first of many times in this movie.
Yeah.
Which I'm not knocking it. It's a great song.
Soundtrack of this movie is pretty good.
It is. I mean, it's all late '60s music.
Yeah.
I didn't write any of it down. I know because when I used to work at the Tube, we listened to classic rock a lot when I worked with Bob, and he would always quiz me on, now who sings this one?
Yeah.
And "Born to Be Wild" came on a lot, and Steppenwolf. That's right. It's very good.
Yeah. Good job, kid.
Basically, yeah. No, Bob was cool. Bob still is cool, but he was like this old rocker guy. He had hair like Fabio, so we called him Bobbio.
Ah.
Shout out Bob. And so we're going down the road, and Mark is reading scary stories, and Marshall can't take it anymore and finally pops out from the back, which I don't know how he got there unnoticed.
He crawled in after all the stuff was in.
Okay, I guess. But there's one of those things where you can't really think about it too hard.
Yep.
And then this car screeches to a halt, and we cut to Marshall in a phone booth talking to Mom, and they're discussing what to do. The older boys want to send him back, but Marshall quickly grabs the phone back, props his feet up against the door, and tells his mom to let him stay, and says that she would have done it too if she were him. And so Mom agrees to let him stay for 2 weeks.
Yes.
And they're really mad at him. They tell him he's going to pay. We cut to them at a campfire. Mark is still reading the stories about people getting mauled by bears. And Marty throws a rock behind Marshall and scares him. And they're just being mean to him at this point for no reason.
They're being brothers.
Yeah. And then it's the next day. The boys are, well, it's a bathroom break.
Yes.
And Marshall is downstream of them filling up their water canteens, which is very clever and funny. At the same time, probably not actually a big deal with the way the water, things would spread out in the water.
Yeah.
But still conceptually funny.
Yes,
They get interrupted by an eagle, which very clearly stock footage from some nature show that they just inserted in there because the film, none of it matches.
Probably Wild America.
I want to say Wild America. I would hope Wild America. I would assume Wild America.
What's the other one? Omaha. Crap.
But anyway, we get to see the cool scene of the eagle take a fish out of the water and start eating it. And apparently they locked the truck, which it's 1967. You're in the middle of nowhere. You're gonna lock your truck.
Right. That's what it is. Mutual of Omaha, Wild Kingdom.
There it is.
That's the other documentary series that went on for a while. Like, we're gonna use that one.
Yeah, we use the competitor. So they missed the shot. Marty's mad. Marty's about to break the window with a rock that, I'm sorry, there is no way he's picking up that rock.
It's a pretty big rock.
It was a huge rock.
Yeah,
that's a heavy rock.
It is.
Anyway, but the bird flies off and Marty gets prevented from breaking the window because it's too late.
Yeah.
And then we cut to, I guess it's an alligator tour.
Yes, another random abrupt cut.
Yes, to a crazy man. And I didn't write down his name.
Does it say where the alligator tour is?
Not a bit. But we get Alligator Guy telling a story about how he got in a fight with an alligator. And I love that he just stabs himself square in the leg. And the boys are just like, It's like, all he got was my leg. And he just leaves the knife in there. And this guy is quite a character.
Yeah, he is.
He's one of my, 80% of his scenes are my favorite part of the movie.
He was in it for like 5 minutes.
One of my favorite parts of the movie is dealing with this guy. But he's going over the list of if you lose a single piece of my equipment, you lose your whole deposit.
Yeah.
Which is important. And telling stories. And so we cut to them in the boat, in the swamp.
At night.
In the swamp.
Yep.
Looking for alligators. And Marty thinks he sees something over yonder, tells Mark to throw the bait. Mark stabs some holes in a plastic bag with meat in it, and then just chucks the whole bag.
And he gets caught in a tree.
Does get caught in a tree. And Marty's like, no big deal, just throw some more. And he's like, I threw all the bait. And he goes, what? Why'd you throw all the bait? He goes, you told me to. And they argue again, because they argue a lot, and it's kind of annoying. But so Mark decides he's going to go get the bait, and he puts on his hip waders.
Which do nothing.
So if you're wearing, which end up doing nothing because the water comes up over the hip waders, which at that point you're better off not wearing hip waders.
Right.
Because that's extremely dangerous to go above the top of your hip waders.
Because now you're just in a balloon of water.
Right. They fill up with, it's one thing if a little water spills over here and there, but to have them completely submerged, all they're doing is filling with water.
Yeah.
And
then holding you down from getting out fast.
Yeah. And so Mark gets the bait, and suddenly there's a drop off.
Yep.
Like he's walking the whole way, and then all of a sudden he gets to the bait, and the bottom of the swamp drops down 20 feet. So yeah, he sinks. Marshall goes in for him, spots him, gets the knife, cuts it, drops the flashlight.
Yep.
Mark gets back to the boat. Marshall goes for the flashlight, shines it underwater, which very clear water for a swamp.
Yeah.
Finds himself face to face with an alligator.
Yes, he does.
Which, fun fact.
Yes.
For this scene, they used an alligator, and they had 8 handlers strategically placed and had the alligator's mouth wired open so they could control it
Interesting.
in this upcoming scene where Marshall is running from it with the flashlight in its mouth. Half of
Really?
those, yeah, half of those scenes are a real alligator coming after him, half of them are mechanical.
Okay.
But yeah, they tried to use a real animal as much as they could. Yeah,
Okay.
which I would have just, if I were Jonathan Taylor Thomas, I don't think I would have played along.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah, reason he got out of acting when he did.
Yeah. The gator scene.
The Gator scene did it. Cause yeah, this was one of his I want to say one of his last roles before he retired in I think 2000. Yeah, I think we're
Maybe.
coming up on the end of his career. Anyway, so we're back to Gator Man, and Gator Man thought for sure that they were alligator food,
Yeah.
and starts talking about it. Mentions his buddy Phil, we met in the war, and he would tell stories about hunting alligators, and Phil would tell stories about hunting bears. And I didn't mention it earlier when the magazine he was talking about the bear cave where there's a
Yes.
thousand
Yes. That was
bears
in the
that
magazines.
in the magazine scene that I glossed over because I didn't write it in my notes because I was like, oh, I'll remember. Getting old, I don't do that anymore. Remembering is not a thing. Anyway, so back to Alligator Man. Says his buddy Phil talked about hunting bear and about a cave where 1,000 of them sleep. So we get a second reference to this cave, and the boys' ears perk up, and they're like, "Oh, well, can we talk to Phil? Where do we find this Phil?" And turns out Phil's right inside the house. So the boys
Yeah.
follow the guy in there, and we find out that well, Phil is in the house, but Phil is not living. He you see an alligator mounted on a wall with Phil's little legs sticking out of it. And then we get a really weird last scene of Alligator Man, which, like you said, I think there was more to it because it was a
Yeah.
really weird noise that he makes at
It
a really
was.
at a really weird, awkward close up. And then we do a very harsh cut to the boys just kind of sitting in the truck driving, slightly traumatized by it.
Yeah.
And they're talking about how he was a crazy old man, but just because he's crazy doesn't mean he's wrong.
Right. It's like he's crazy and doesn't know what he's talking about, but maybe he does know what he's talking about because this is the second reference we've got to this cave.
Yep. And so we get another harsh cut to a guy grilling fish on a beach.
Yeah.
And Mark is flirting with some. Are they supposed to be British? They have accents,
They do have accents.
but I can't place the accents.
European?
Sure. Good
Maybe
enough is good.
Australian?
Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, they're doing some flirty flirty. It leads to them getting milkshakes to go. They're on a beach. They decide skinny dipping is a good idea. They tell
Yep.
Marshall to watch the stuff. You see Marshall look at the camera with the mischievous look on his face, and then we cut again to them driving.
Yep. Just a
Eh.
little brief scene. Now I this was the first point in the movie where I remembered something, and I remembered them running to the beach. Running on the beach, everybody running off. I'm like, okay, I remember this scene. I didn't know it was from this movie, but I remembered like this is familiar.
Well, we're a ways into the movie now, so yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, you really don't remember this at all.
I did not.
Okay, then. So we are in there driving. Mark's driving. He's got a little hippie headband on that he got from one of the girls, and he's pleading his case that they should actually turn around and follow the girls because there are, and I quote, plenty of animals in New York,
Right.
which is where the girls were headed.
Yeah, so
And Marty,
were they on the East Coast? They must have been on the coast.
well, they can't have been on the coast because they were they in like Texas? Because they started in Arkansas.
Right.
They went down probably to Louisiana for the bayous.
Possibly, yes.
And so then they're cutting across the west coast,
Are they in
or
California at some point?
maybe I don't think they ever get to California.
I I I I don't know their trajectory.
Maybe they did go east. Maybe they went south and then they went east. They're in
Yeah,
Florida.
could be.
They could be in Florida with the Gators. A lot of Gators in Florida.
There's a lot of gators in Florida.
So we get a little traveling montage,
Mhm.
and they end up in I guess it's a restricted area. They put a sign down over a fence and they drive over it.
Yes, yes, they do.
So it cuts to Mark and Marty arguing over the little itty bitty spot of shade. They see it's not a deer. It looks like a deer kind of thing.
Like an antelope?
Maybe an antelope, possibly. And Marty starts filming it, and then a wolf approaches, and then a bomb drops.
I'm, I'm
And this whole
reminded.
time, I'm reminded of Malcolm in the Middle.
Me too. It's like where the cougar blows up.
But and then doesn't Reese think like he did it with his mind?
Yes,
Yeah, and so they
but
apparently
yeah,
win.
they've.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say they've gone into a military testing zone.
Yeah, and then they run to get out. Apparently things settle down, and Marshall follows an owl because he thinks it's Leona.
Yeah, it's
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 really
weird.
weird.
It's like the plane. First of all, it's like the planes are chasing them, blowing stuff up around them.
Maybe they are.
Yeah, it's like look
Oh, a target.
at look at those kids running. Let's scare them. Okay. And after all the bombs start going off, he's like, "Oh, it's an owl,
Yeah. I mean,
Leona."
you guys couldn't even kill the three of us. I gotta say, I'm not impressed. But they follow Marshall, and Marshall finds a cave and a little nook in the rock, and sees a painting about a cave with a bunch of bears in it. They draw on his chest and take him to a native lady who translates the picture.
Right, right, and that's another
Reference.
right, another reference. But this militarized bombing area, where's that at? It's they don't do a good job of describing their journey across the states,
Yes. We
where
have
they're
no
going,
idea where they are ever.
or what route they're taking.
Right.
They're just driving like, hey, gators now, hey, beach now, hey, now we're in the mountain.
And they only have like a month to travel, don't they?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, and it's not long. And you just kind of gotta accept accept it, I guess.
Yeah. Don't think too much about it.
Right. So they're back driving,
Yep.
and they're singing "Born to Be Wild" yet again. And that's pretty much all that happens there. And then we cut to them hiking through the mountains, and Marty pulls out a little rabbit thingy where you blow into it, and it sounds like a
Right,
dying
right.
rabbit.
In the dying rabbit call, which bears love.
Yeah, it's like bacon in a skillet to him, which bacon in a skillet probably not a bad idea either.
No, probably not.
But Mark and Marty start arguing about who's gonna go stand in the middle of the field and blow the rabbit call, the bear call.
Yeah.
And Marshall
Bear-
volunteers in exchange for the book of scary stories that he's been having to listen to this whole trip,
Right.
which very
So
clever
they Yep, yep. So he
because
takes the call. He hasn't been a big fan of the scary stories,
right.
which is mostly just people getting ripped apart.
Yeah, that's pretty much all it is people surviving bear attacks. And so he's like he says that he's not stupid. He knew that they were gonna make him do it anyway, but at least this way he gets the book
Right.
where the stories stop. So they set the camera up. Marty finds his shot, sets the camera on the tripod. Marshall goes out there, blows the bear call, and attracts a moose,
A little moose.
a little moose, baby moose.
Yes.
And okay,
Which
I'm sorry, but which he calls a baby deer. And
yes.
with all the wild animals that he's seen throughout his life that they've raised, including a baby deer,
Yes.
should know the difference between a deer and a moose.
Technically, moose are part of the deer family.
Not buying it. He would know the difference.
Also, that is a colt in a costume instead of a baby moose.
Yes, it is. That was another one of my fun facts.
Okay.
Was the moose was actually a donkey.
The baby moose is a colt. The big
The
moose
moose is called
is
is
a
a
donkey in a suit.
yes,
Which
which I looked for, and they did a really good job on it.
yeah, but it doesn't move like a moose. I'm like, that moves like a horse. But it's not a horse, it's a donkey.
Yeah. Anyway, so Mama comes. They start filming footage of
Right,
Marshall petting the moose.
not to bury the lead, but Mama Moose comes.
Yeah, so they film a little bit of Marshall petting the moose, and then Mama Moose comes, and Mark and Marty are having a conversation like, "Hey, aren't moose dangerous?" And they're like, "Yeah," but just kind of like, "Oh well."
Yeah, it's like this one doesn't
And
look dangerous.
yeah, then Mama comes, and Marshall starts running, Mark starts running after, and then Marty chases, still holding the camera, and like 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 um real life Marshall said, the moose, the adult moose is a donkey in a suit.
Yes,
And eventually
and then there's
film
this weird puppet moose head.
yeah, the puppet moose head was not very well done. And eventually
And
the marshal in the movie gets picked up and rides the antlers, and
yeah,
you in some scenes it looks like he's actually riding on the donkey's antlers,
yeah,
and then in the behind shot you can see he's riding along on the mechanical moose because there's
yeah.
no gallop to it. It's on wheels, clearly on wheels.
Right, he's being pushed on this little track with the weird moose face that has a mouth that's just it's huge. And I saw that there's Kevin Smith. You know who that is?
Silent Bob.
Yeah, yeah. He's been talking about doing a movie called Moose Jaws, which is basically just Jaws with a moose instead of a shark. But I saw that puppet. I'm like, that's what you'd see for Moose Jaws.
Jaws. Oh gosh, is it bad that I really want to see that
No, because I really want to see it too. He just hasn't made it yet.
soon?
Hopefully.
So, yeah. So anyway, they're all chasing Marshall, who's riding the moose, and they kind of crest the horizon of this hill, and suddenly Marshall is on top of the moose, and he's very far downriver.
Yes, he just it's I don't did the moose jump into the river?
Do moose generally jump into a river?
Do moose generally scoop up kids and run with them as opposed to pin and maul?
Usually stomp them into the ground is what moose usually do.
Right, right.
Not,
Not scoop and run.
yeah. Apparently, that's what they do here.
Especially Marshall, he's tiny, he would've been easy to get under those hooves.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're the the moose is in the river, Marshall's in the river on the moose still.
And the older boys are running down the bank, and then we see another man on the opposite side of the river running, which causes Mark to stop and go, "Bigfoot." It's like keep running. Your your brother is still going downstream at a rapid rate.
Right, but if you're seeing Bigfoot across the river, stop and film that thing.
No kidding. And then we get
But it's not Bigfoot.
it's it is Bigfoot. He's credited as Bigfoot.
Is he?
He is. If you look it up, he is credited as Bigfoot because that's the only thing they call him.
Bigfoot the mountain man. Yep.
Yep. And so Bigfoot pulls Marshall out of the river and saves him, and we see that it's Danny Glover.
Right, the great Danny Glover. His random wilderness Bigfoot man.
Yep. Which I was like, hey, it's that guy.
The bank robber from Maverick.
Yeah. It is second movie of the podcast.
His second cameo in the podcast.
Yeah. Actually. He was uncredited in this. Actually, he was uncredited in both of them, wasn't he?
He was.
Yeah, so this is the second uncredited film of the podcast. That's funny.
Yep.
So he pulls Marshall out, and Marshall thanks him, and then Mark shows up and asks if Marshall's okay, and then suddenly notices the Bigfoot guy and is startled by him. And
Right.
then Marty shows up in tow saying, I got it all on film, that's great stuff. And then turns to Bigfoot guy and says, and who are you?
Yeah.
And then he laughs, and we cut to them around a campfire, and they're talking to him about their plan to find the cave. And Bigfoot essentially insults them,
Right.
calls them stupid, says, "Stop it! What are you doing?
Yeah.
You're gonna go walk into a cave of bears and take their picture?
Right.
What is wrong with you?" But nothing can shake them because they're determined to do this. And so Bigfoot tells them to go up to, I forget the name of the peak, and talk
Wild Peak?
to, I don't know, and talk to old Connie, and she'll tell them all about paying the price.
Right.
And then he starts to laugh and disappears.
Right. He's laughing, and then he
They start
just is
laughing
gone.
with him, and then Marty gets a surprised look on his face because he's apparently just disappeared.
Right. He's just gone. Like classic Bigfoot.
Yep. And then we cut to another phone call with Mom, where Marty is saying that they want to keep him for 2 more weeks. So apparently, all of this is taking place in a 2 week span.
Yeah, they got across the countryside pretty quick.
Yep. And Mom's like, "Why do you want to keep him?" Marty's like, "He comes in handy." And she's like, "Yeah, put your brother on the phone because I don't like the sound of that."
Yeah.
But they are in agreement that he's going to stay for 2 more weeks. And now that they have a direction, we see them driving up into the mountains, and it's real snowy now.
Will's Peaks. That's what it was.
Will's Peaks, yes.
Will's Peak. Yep.
And as they're driving up this lonely mountain road, they spot a car on the side of the road and three untrustworthy looking men standing next to it.
Yes. You want to give this fun fact?
I'll let you do it. I got the last one.
These are the real three brothers. Um,
They are.
which is it's a cool little insert that they all got to be in it. And I don't think we mentioned this, but Mark was actual producer on this movie.
Oh, I did not mention that.
Yeah, he was one of the producers.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah,
And a nice little cameo from the three brothers.
exactly. It's a little fun little Easter egg.
Yep. So then we cut to them at the cabin. They have found this cabin, and they're very impolite, actually. They just kind
Yes.
of barge onto this lady's property, start snooping around. Um, she's got this little flower garden encapsulated, like a greenhouse kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then she pokes her head out from behind a curtain, and Marshall notices and is like, "Oh, hey guys, let's go bang on the door now.
Yep. Someone's here.
Someone's here. Let's bother them." And they knock on the door, and she answers, and they start talking about their plan to go to the bear cave. And she's like, "What are you talking about? There is no bear cave, and that little one's freezing."
Yeah.
And so she invites them all in and tells the story about her. She feeds them, gives them tea, and then
And and in a scene that's way too short.
yeah, with like she's got this like picture of her and her husband, fiance guy, just kind of
Yeah.
sitting next to her chair facing her, and Marshall kind of briefly glances at it, and she's like, "Oh, you noticed the picture. Let me tell you a story, guys."
Yeah. Almost like Bigfoot ran up there and said, "Hey, these kids are coming."
Yeah, very very pointed scene.
Well, and Mark's like, "Look at her face."
Marshall, he goes, "Did you see her face?" And they're like,
Oh,
"Yeah." And
was it
it's like,
Marshall?
"Yeah." When
Don't
they're at
say
the
that.
door, and it's like, "Really?" I'm pretty sure everybody noticed.
Yeah.
But so yeah, she's talking about how she and her fiance were attacked by bears, and Judd, her fiance, died
Yeah.
from the bear. And every year on his birthday, which happens to be tomorrow,
Yes.
um,
She takes flowers there.
she takes flowers. Which Judd's birthday is September 3rd.
Whose birthday?
Judd
Oh,
in the
yes.
movie is September 3rd,
Okay.
which Grandpa Al's birthday,
It was. It is.
and which is conveniently tomorrow in the film.
Uh-huh.
And so she gives Marshall her Judd's leather jacket and sends the boys off.
Because that's what you do to random kids that show
Apparently,
up.
like you said, the scene was too short. Maybe there was more that happened, and she took a liking to the boys.
Right. Right. Well, I mean, she clearly did a little
Yeah,
bit, but yeah, there's definitely too short. And
it's very to the point.
yeah.
It sets
Well, I
up
mean,
everything.
the movie's like an hour and 40 something minutes,
It could have
which
easily been a 2-hour movie.
right. It's weird because it feels longer than that. At the same
Yeah,
time, it feels shorter. It's weird.
it is weird.
It's like they're cutting. They were cutting stuff for time, getting the major points in, but, I mean, we're a good chunk into this movie. There's still a good chunk left, at least story-wise of what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, getting close.
Yeah, but
But
think of the events that happen through the rest of the movie. There's still a lot of plot points to cover.
there is, yeah. Speaking of plot points, they get back to their car and it has been broken into and robbed.
Mhm.
And someone wrote thanks across the windshield.
The untrustworthy men
Oh,
from earlier have robbed them.
yes. They followed them up there and broke into their car and stole all their stuff. Which
It's like, that's what they get for not stopping, jerks.
I guess. Well, and then
Oh, no, that's what they were thinking.
right. No, that's I was agreeing with you. But like and then Mark is like, "Oh, they stole all of our food, our sleeping bags, all of our money." And I go, "Who doesn't carry money on them?
Right, who leaves it in their car?
Especially when you pass some untrustworthy folk." But Marty is like, "Oh, well, they didn't get the film. That's what matters."
And Mark's like, "Oh boy."
Yeah, good. Can we eat it? Can we sleep in it? Like,
Yeah, it's like, "Oh, good, the film's still here."
right. And
Mar
then you
Marty's
get
been Marty's been kind of on this one-track mind about filming and getting things getting everything filmed. Which is we didn't touch on it, but it's been kind of concerning to the brothers at points. It's like, "Hey, Marshall was in a river. What's going on? Why are you just filming?" It's like, "I got it, guys."
right. Yeah, he's not really concerned with the safety of the others.
Right.
And then we get Mark and Marty kind of arguing. Yeah, are they arguing? And because Mark's like, we can get mom to wire us some money,
Right.
send us some money. And then out of nowhere, uh, well, kind of, because Marshall's like, oh, maybe dad, we can get some money, more money. Dad can loan us some more money and we can work it off. And then
I'm
out of nowhere, Marty's like, oh, yeah, maybe dad could fly it over here.
Yeah. Well, at the same time, I'm thinking, what of the of what interactions of their dad have we seen that he would give them more money?
Yeah. I mean, I guess dad would always help him out in a bind. That might be,
Yeah.
but like, but it's like suddenly Marty turns on Marshall, who has done nothing
Right.
except try to
Right.
offer an idea.
Maybe dad
And
can help. Oh.
oh yeah, dad could fly it over. Like, what? Where is this coming from? And I, yeah, completely unprovoked, Marty's just like, dad's never flown a plane in his life.
Yeah. Well, doesn't Marshall say, yeah, but I mean, he could fly it over.
Yeah, he goes,
Marty's
yeah, he
like, he's
could.
never flown a plane in his life.
Yeah, just crush this kid. And then so Marshall's looking to Mark like that. Tell him that's not true. Tell him dad's flown lots of times. And Mark just kind of confirms that no, no, dad was just a mechanic. He didn't. I never fly
Yeah.
him. He's scared of heights. So that's what you need on top of that. And then
Right. He's like, you guys suck.
yeah, so then the older brothers start fighting again because Marty's mad that Mark's standing up for Marshall and
Yeah. It's like, why are you on his side now? It's
yeah.
like,
Well, it's like well, I've never been on your side. We're the ones that are arguing.
it's like, why is it everybody versus everybody now?
So some things get said, and Mark tackles Marty. They roll down a hill, and Mark breaks his leg,
Yes.
and that quickly stops the fight.
I and this is another scene I remembered. Not the fight, just him lying on the mountain. I'm like, oh, that looks familiar. I know that. With his leg at a weird angle.
Yeah, which they did pretty good there,
Yeah.
because it does look like it would hurt. I don't know.
Up, yeah. And I don't know if it was broken or cracked or
Hairline fracture,
okay.
because we cut to the doctor
Yep.
and get all patched up. Marty calls mom, says Mark broke his leg falling off a mountain, and they can just wire the money to the doctor. And then randomly, they're getting ready to leave. So they put Mark on crutches, and they're leaving. And randomly, some lady comes out of a back room and is like, "Where are you guys staying tonight?" And they tell her in the truck like always, and she goes, "Nope, you'll bunk here. Don't want you getting eaten by bears." With some of the worst ADR I've ever seen in this
Yeah.
movie. It was bad.
It was.
It was really bad. I was disappointed in it. And that's all that scene is. That's the end of
Yeah,
that scene.
that's it. We don't see them getting set up on a couch or anything. It's like, you're staying here. Okay, we're back in the snow again.
Driving. And then they're apparently going home with their tails between their legs
Right. They've
at this point.
uh,
And then
gotten all
uh,
sad and they're like, well, we don't have any money. You have a broken leg. I guess we should head home.
yeah. And then they pass this lady at a cemetery and Marshall gets this genius idea of, "Wait, what day is it? It's Judd's
Right.
birthday. She's going to go to the cave."
She can show us where it is.
Yeah, like it's very very convenient. And
Yeah.
so the car skids to a stop and next thing we know they cut and they're all the way back up at the cabin.
Yeah.
The flowers are gone, and then it's like, oh, horse tracks. So they follow the horse tracks to the cave, somehow loop up and around the back side of it,
Yeah.
and they're watching not very discreetly.
No.
And I'm pretty sure Carrie's her name, and knows that they're there.
Yeah. She's like, good. They fell for my plan.
Trapped little boys in a cave. So yeah, she lays the flowers down. She takes off. They come down the hill, and I want to point out that Mark has a broken leg, and
Does
yet
he?
he exactly because he jumps a good 6 feet down.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's hobbling on this crutch for a little bit, and then yeah, he's jumping and like, what crutch? After this point, basically.
He's got the one now. He's not on crutches. He's on crutch.
Right. He's on a
Just kind of
crutch
kind of
for
hobbling
a little
along.
bit longer.
Yeah, and so they get into the cave. It's full of snakes. They argue a little bit.
They see the mouth of the cave too, and it's got all the
Icicles.
icicles, and it looks all menacing. And
Right. So they decide to go in,
yes,
and then there's conveniently rattlesnakes.
yeah, a bunch of rattlesnakes. I guess. Do we know where they're at? Are they like in Montana or something at this point?
I was gonna say Colorado.
Okay, but this scene I remember too with the snakes in the snow.
Yeah, which I don't know if that would actually be a thing.
I-
It should, did you really need the? I don't know. So they decide
It
that
was
they're gonna
another obstacle that can be an obstacle later.
right, but they decide that they're gonna throw snow over the top of the snakes and then walk across.
Right, because that's not going to squish all the snakes.
Right, and snakes can't pop up through the snow. Oh wait, yes they can. We see that when Marshall's crossing.
Yeah. I
Like if
It
you
didn't feel
decide
necessary.
it felt a little over the top. It completely unnecessary. And so they
Speaking of over the top.
yes, the bear scene. They find the bears. And there's a lot of them. And they keep shining the flashlight on them as they're starting to wake up.
Right.
And during this scene, I was like, well, hey, maybe stop shining the flashlight on them right now.
Yeah, shine the flashlight up or something, or down, or just not in their
Down.
face.
Yeah. Why don't you get the camera out, get all set up, and then start shining lights.
Because that cave's pretty light even without the light.
Yeah, you might not need it, turns out. And so they turn on the big bright lights and start filming the bears.
Yes.
And the bears wake up and they are not happy and they did a fairly good job about only filming real bears close up and not the mechanical bears that they used as fillers
The the weird puppet bear.
yes. And one I'm sure is a man in a bear suit.
Well, yeah, there's been the bear suits. There's the weird puppet bears that have a permanent face of horror and agony on it.
Yes. But yeah, the bears wake up and they are all horrified that the bears are awake. And Marshall starts singing the Mountain Dew song.
Right, because he's in shock.
And the other boys join in, and apparently that lulls them to sleep.
Yes, the music soothes the savage beast.
Yes. And so this Mountain Dew song reminded me, and I didn't mention it earlier, of Grandpa.
Yeah.
Because Grandpa was always singing little songs that sounded
Yes.
like made up songs.
Yeah.
But it turns out they were all real songs. I looked them up.
Yeah.
Yeah. All of them, all them little ditties he would sing were real songs.
Makes sense.
Yeah, but it reminded me of it when the dad was singing way back at the beginning of the movie. Like, Grandpa Al used to do that. He'd walk around, old Mother Nature, have her way.
Yeah.
He'd be walking off somewhere and just start randomly singing. He'd never sing a full song though. He'd just sing like a little, like 5 second part of the song.
Just a little chorus or
Yeah,
little line here or there.
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And yeah, I always thought they were made up songs, but they were actually real songs that he would sing. But I didn't want to let the movie go by without mentioning that. Yes, that
I like
reminded me
that.
of Grandpa. I know Grandpa loved this movie. Actually, we watched this movie with him when he was living with us.
Oh, yeah?
A couple times. He
Nice.
always he always finished up and be like, "Well, that was a good show." But I don't think there was a TV show or a movie that Grandpa didn't like.
Nope. No, I don't think so.
He always found the good in everything.
Yeah.
Anyway, the bears go back to sleep,
Yes, yes, they sing them back to sleep.
and then
They waste their opportunity.
instead of leaving, they get pooped on and decide to look up above and realize, bats. And then bat droppings drop on the flashlight. Since it's hot, the contrast causes it to explode, which causes the bats to, I guess, die because they all just kind of drop to the floor.
Yeah. It's a weird scene.
And then that wakes up all the bears, and they
Right,
don't know
all
what
the
to
bears are
do.
back.
Why don't you just sing the song again?
Yeah, that makes sense. It worked once, maybe it'll work again.
Yep. So anyway, the bears are mad, and you're getting chaos. Marty decides to film,
Right.
gets the camera slapped away by a bear.
Yes.
The boys kind of separate. Marshall's up behind a rock and blows the bear call, and you get some fun reactions from the bear where they clearly dub over the top the bear going, "Huh?"
Yeah. The bear with a questioning noise.
Yep.
We I've got 2 big meals sitting here right in front of me. Rabbit?
It would still be jarring though to randomly hear a dying rabbit. Like you would look over and be like, "What?" Now I just pictured a
There's
bear being like, "What?"
It's like, "I'm about to mess up these 2 kids. What's with the rabbit?"
There's suddenly a dying rabbit in here. Where did that come from?
I don't know, but I like rabbit.
I know rabbit's good. I don't know if kids are good. But Marshall tells the other two to make a break for it. He's got another way out. So they leave.
Yeah, they book it out.
Yep. And then they get
I
back
got
to the
another way
snakes.
out. Sure thing.
Okay, kid. Thanks.
We trust you. Which yeah.
So they're running out, and they get back to where the snakes were.
The snow was melted.
And the snow melted really, really fast. Because this, what? And then it's like, where's the snow?
Marty's like, "I don't know, just go."
Yeah. Well, because there's a bear following them out.
Right.
So they have to get by the snakes, and the snakes will stop the bear.
Ideally.
That's what happens.
It is what happens, but
And then we cut back to Marshall in the cave, and he does have a back way out.
right.
And he's climbing up this little, shimmying up this little
Cave.
cave area.
Little trench.
Little trench, yeah. It's not very big. And apparently the bear is climbing up there after him, which I
Right.
didn't
The
know
the
bears did that.
bear's like the bear's like burrowing through this mountain.
Yeah, after this kid. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I guess if you're hungry enough.
Yeah. I mean it broke a couple pieces of rock, but it seemed pretty small, and the bear's kind of squeezing himself in there.
Yeah. And I forgot to mention that Marshall does have the camera. Marshall
Yes,
did
he
grab
grabbed
the
the
camera
camera.
and bolted. And he gets to the
Uh
top, and it's conveniently covered in ice.
yes, a nice little ice window.
Yeah. Which, okay. Marshall kicks it out just as the bear's coming up after him.
Right. He
And
gets out the bear paw.
Yeah, he pops up. The boys notice him. Hey, Marshall's up there, and they're like, "Yay, good for you, Marshall!"
Right,
And then
and before they see Marshall, Mark's like, "We left him in there. What are we thinking?"
yeah. And Marty's like, "He said he had a way out. I believed him."
When
And
did
then
Mark
he pops
become the
up.
reasonable one?
I don't know.
I mean, to be fair, Mark's the one that was part of one of the producers. So
Yeah, that is true. But
it's like, make me say that line. Okay.
yeah, yeah. No, Marty wouldn't say something that smart. He almost got us killed in that cave. But yeah, so Marshall's up top. They tell him not to move. And then the bear paw reaches out and grabs his foot and trips him.
Right.
And he rolls down the hill.
He's like, look, I saved the camera.
And then we get the moment where Marty's like, "Oh, forget the camera." It's like, "Aw,
Yay.
character development, inexplicable
Yeah.
character development." Because just 2 seconds ago, you left your brother in a cave.
To be there, they both did.
That's true.
He said
And
he
then,
had it.
yes, he did. So then we cut from here to them almost back home, and Marshall's driving.
Right.
And then he daydreams that he's flying a plane and crashes into the sign.
Right.
And Dad comes and picks him up in the tow truck.
Yep.
They drive by the little gas station drive-in place.
JD's there.
DC.
DC's there. That character really made an impact on me.
Yeah, he's there making fun of them.
He's like, oh, look, they're back.
Yeah. Which they've been gone for a while. He's like, look who's back with their tail between their legs. It's like
Yeah.
they were gone for like at least a month, dude.
Right. And how do you know we're back with our tail between our legs? Our truck just got broken.
Yeah. But they get back to the house. Dad says he wants the car off the tow truck and in the garage before dark. Marshall again doesn't help with anything.
Nope.
Just runs upstairs to check on his bird.
Who's gone?
Yep. Yep. Mom comforts him, and then he runs off, ends up in the garage looking at the plane. The next day, they're back to dipping carbs. Marty's mouthing off to Dad. Dad starts firing back. Marshall steps up and interrupts and asks if his dad ever flew a plane. Dad looks very shocked that
Yes.
someone spilled the beans. And Marshall gets out of the plane, looks at Leon. Leon kind of turns his head in shame,
Right.
I guess. Like, oh, we're caught, or what have you.
Yeah.
And then Marshall runs off. And then we get another hard cut to a package coming in the mail. So this is clearly weeks later.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Like,
Or at least sometime later.
well, I mean, she sent everything in she sent the film in to get the film produced and developed.
Yeah.
And then she rented out the gym and she got flyers printed up and all that and actual tickets
Yeah.
purchased. And she's going to set up, she rented out the gym at the school for a movie night. And if the film sucks, then they'll play basketball.
Right.
Being a
Right.
good supportive
She's
mother.
there to support them.
Yep. And then we cut again to a note on the refrigerator saying the dad was in a car oh yeah, we see the dad crash the big rig.
Right, right. It's got it all loaded up to take it to
Whatever.
do the delivery part of the carburetor business.
Yep. And then we see him crash, and then we cut to Marshall looking at the note on the fridge and calling the older brothers over, and we see the note.
He later gets bought out by Callahan Auto.
30 years later.
Yes. No. But yeah, there's the note on the refrigerator saying dad was in an accident.
Go to the hospital.
Yeah. Bye. I left.
Yep. So they all were all at the hospital. We're getting details of the crash. Truck's totaled. Entire load of carburetors are destroyed.
Yep.
Because there was a fire.
Yeah. It wiped out
Which
everything. That's the
wiped out everything. Dad starts giving orders on what to do to make money
yeah, to fix it.
to fix it. He tells his wife that he doesn't save money, he saves parts. So they got a bunch of rods that they need to assemble and they can sell for 6 bits a piece to a guy, but they need to be put together. And then he has Marty stay behind and tells him that this could break the family and he's depending on him to get it handled.
Yes.
So we cut to the next day or whenever, and they're all putting together these rods.
And Marshall's finally helping.
Yeah, finally, he's actually doing something. And everyone's just in a bad mood. Marty's mouthing off about the movie, complaining and whining. Mom has had enough, and she throws down her rods and storms off. And then Marshall starts making fun of Marty and the
Yeah.
film, and totally reverse psychology.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, "You're right, I bet it is stupid."
Yeah, we should stick to what we know. We don't know anything about anything else. And that gets Marty all fired up, and he walks off. And then we cut to the next morning. Marshall's up early and decides that it's time to fly the plane.
Yeah.
So he gets out there and he puts extenders on the pedals.
Yep, yep,
He
he
pulls
strapped
the,
some wood blocks on him or something.
yep. And then he pulls it out and fires it up
Yeah, yeah, he does.
and gets it out into the field. And at this point, the brothers wake up and they're running out there
Yeah,
because
look out the
he's
window to see what's going on.
see him getting ready to take off because he's gotten that far. Leon comes out. The boys are running downstairs. Mom is like, "Oh, is Marshall? Is Marshall up?" And Marty's like, "Well, not yet." Which clever joke.
Yeah,
And they all go outside as Marty's not there. Marshall is coming down the runway, and
right. So apparently the repairs to the plane are done.
yes, apparently, and Marshall knows that.
Yes.
And so he's going down the runway or the field, and Leon catches up, and Mom's like, "Oh, good, Leon's got him." And
Yeah.
uh, Leon being there is not stopping him from taking off. Anyway,
No, no, Leon's hanging onto the side of the plane getting dragged. And
yeah,
Marshall tells him, "I gotta do this, Leon."
yeah. And so Mom's like, "Get in the car, get in the car." And so she and the boys get in the car. Marshall starts taking off with Leon still grabbing onto the wing
Yep, Leon quickly climbs into
into the plane.
the back seat.
Yep. And yeah, so Marshall starts flying the plane.
Yep, he takes off and they're in the air.
Yep, and they're very he's very much on a mission because Leon's yelling that he's gonna be sick, and then he's like, "Oh, your dad would sure love to see this," and Marshall says, "Oh, he's gonna,"
Yeah,
and so we get a nice little flying thing with the foot pedal breaks because of course it does. So Marshall ducks down to fix it and has Leon fly it, which basically keep the stick straight.
right. And
Uh,
that's the point when they're able to see the plane pretty good and like, I don't see Marshall.
Marshall fell out. They're following the plane. Marshall goes to the hospital. You see the dad.
Yeah, he's able to fly his way to the hospital.
Yep. Yep. And then the dad wakes up because he hears the plane and he's like, he hears a plane and his first thought is, I bet Marshall took the plane out and is flying it right here, right now.
Yes.
That's logically what the next step is.
Or it's like, that's a plane. That's a biplane. That's my plane. What?
That I've never flown or fired up.
Yeah,
So he looks out and he sees the plane and Marshall waves. Dad waves back.
because you can see each other from that far away.
Yep. Or maybe they're just both wave and neither one of them see. No,
Right,
they do
just
because literally the next scene he goes, "Leon, did you see the look on my dad's face?" And it's like, "No, you didn't either." And then we get
yeah,
a nice touching moment of Leona flying next to the plane.
right. At this point, Leon has his head between his knees
Yep.
and he's just
And
trying to breathe.
right. And after the owl, Marshall looks back and apparently his dad is there with him now.
Yeah, yeah. Leon's still he's imagining his dad behind him.
Yeah. And then he's taking her back home. I was gonna say something, I don't remember what it was. Nope, it's gone forever. Anyway, so yeah, he gets back. He lands the plane, doesn't
Yeah.
hit the brakes, and he comes dangerously close to hitting the acetylene tanks.
Yes, he does.
He gets out, and Mom's like, "So you just thought you'd take her for a spin?" And Leon goes, "Yep," and she shoots him a look. And she asks, "What do you think your dad would say?" And Marshall says, uh, "How's she handle?
Yep.
I hope." And so we basically cut from there to we're back at the hospital.
Yeah, we're about to find out what Dad's gonna say.
Yeah, and Marshall's like, uh, "I'm gonna go in by myself." So he does, and Mark leans over to Marty and says, "Between this, I take the bear cave." And so yeah, they're listening outside the door, and Marshall gets pretty bold and
Yep.
starts making some demands and tells his dad he's got some explaining to do. Tells his dad he doesn't appreciate the white lies or the lies about the plane, and tells his dad he needs to cut the boys loose,
Yes.
let them go shoot their movies.
And his
And
dad's
his
about
dad,
to light up a cigar.
yeah, because you well in 1960s you could in the hospital, and his dad reminds him that he's not gonna be in this hospital bed forever, and what happens then? And Marshall's like, well, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna go one on one with the belt, but that's later.
Yeah.
Just fearless kid. And then it cuts to Mark cuts to all of them outside the door, and they're like, oh, it's awful quiet in there. And Mark's like, that's because he's dead. Dad killed him. Which I didn't touch on it a lot, but there's some pretty good comedy moments in this movie.
Yeah, there's a few good one-liners and
Yeah.
beats.
Yep. And then we have another really awkward cut to the school gym, where they're screening the movie.
Ah.
What?
You forgot that after Marshall's done getting saying his piece, his dad looks at him and asks how she handles.
That's right. Sorry. I even have that written down.
Yeah, he lights up his cigar. He's like, "So, how she handles?"
And then they get a touching smile and a hug.
Yeah, it's like he's dead.
Now we cut to the movie screening,
Yes.
and apparently the whole town is there. Some people like it, some people didn't, some people couldn't care less,
Yeah, it was
and
all the footage of stuff that we saw.
including the skinny dipping scene that we didn't
Yep.
see, which the boys weren't too thrilled with.
Yeah, I watching this, I I feel like they could have done a bit better job of having while they were doing the movie and stuff, actually filming from the camera's perspective versus just
They didn't
um
do any filming from the camera perspective during
no,
the movie.
no,
I
it
think
was it was
it was supposed to be a reveal at the end. I think to where you don't get to see the footage that he got until the
no,
big
no, no,
reveal.
no. I know that, but the footage he got, all the stuff we saw in the movie was stuff that we had seen in the movie. It was not like it was shot from the camera's perspective. It was what we had seen, just with a black and white filter over it.
Oh, yes,
It's not like it was
a different angle.
different angle from that camera. It was
It was essentially the movie in black and white.
right.
Yeah, yeah, it was. Didn't notice that. Thanks for pointing that out.
You're welcome.
But DC starts bad mouthing the movie.
Yeah, it's like I paid for that.
Yeah, which okay,
Well, I don't know how long it rolled for. It felt like 5 minutes.
yeah. It was supposed to have been like a half an hour, I think,
Yeah,
because they didn't have
makes
enough for
sense.
TV, but they did have a decent amount to screen.
Yeah.
But yeah, DC is making fun of the movie, and then we get interrupted. And this is the first movie in our podcast to have the classic 90s slow clap,
It is. Yeah. This is our first slow clap.
which I, I,
Really? Tommy Boy didn't have one?
nope. Tell Me Boy did not have one.
Huh.
Yeah, yeah, this is our first slow clap.
Yep. Okay. But yeah, we hear somebody start clapping. Oh, that cut out.
Yeah, I did. I didn't hear any of it. And it goes over and it just shows the hands clapping together.
Yep.
Yeah, it doesn't pick up at all.
Cutting out sound.
I got that one. Thanks for that. I'm gonna have to edit that out.
No, no, add it.
Sure. But yeah, so then it's revealed that it's the dad, and the dad made it from the hospital, and this and that, and
Is he still in his hospital gown?
I don't remember.
I know he's got the cigar.
He does have a scar, and he's on crutches. But yeah, that starts. The mom sees it, and she's in shock, and she stands up and she starts clapping, and everyone else starts clapping, and one guy goes boo, and Leon punches him in the face or backhands him.
Yeah.
Which random booing guy, like, okay. And then, yeah, the clapter stops. No, the clapping stops. And, yeah, the family starts talking about the film, and DC comes up, and he's like, I want my money back for that pile of garbage, and blah, blah, blah. And the dad is like, oh, you saw a very fine film for your money, but here you go. It's on me.
Yep.
And DC
He gives
takes the
him like
dollar back.
$5 for him and his old
Everybody.
friends. Yep.
Yep. Then the college girls come up and make fun of DC
Yeah.
and then start talking about how great the film was. And Marty starts talking about his plans to go. They're going to go back out and they're going to finish the film. They're going to try to sell it to TV and maybe they can get someone famous to narrate it, like Robert Redford,
Yeah.
which is cool. And the girls think that's real groovy.
Yeah.
And then it turns out Marshall has a few groupies of his own and they ask for his autograph.
In the most awkward way possible.
Yes, yes. Very in a very fangirl-esque fashion.
In a very okay, this has been 6 takes, just say the line again.
Yeah, that's more accurate. So that happens, and then we cut to them all going home, and it appears on the screen. Marshall's narrating again, and he says no one could have predicted it, but at that night, but on April 6, 1977, The Predators aired on NBC, narrated by Robert Redford. And then it keeps writing some words up on the screen. It says Mark became an Emmy Award winner, and one of the foremost wildlife filmmakers in the world. And Marshall does films about endangered snails.
Yes.
And then we roll credits with actual Wild America footage.
Yes, we do.
And we roll credits.
Yeah. Yeah. So all 3 brothers went on to make movies in some sort of fashion.
Fashion. All right. Do you want to give your final thoughts on this film?
Yes. I think I would have really liked it if I'd seen it growing up.
I swear to God, you've seen it growing up.
There's a good chance I did, but whatever I don't know, it was blocked from my mind or what, but there was only like a few scenes here and there that stood out, and I feel like those were from the trailer.
Okay.
But even getting to the end, like it felt like the first time I'd seen it. So it has a bunch of good moments in it. It wasn't one of my favorite movies. I'm not sure if I'd watch it again. I might watch it again. But like we talked about during the whole thing, it felt like it should have been a longer movie, at least with the cuts they put into it. Um, it just kind of jumped around a lot, and it felt like there should have been. I don't know. It felt a little disjointed overall as a movie.
I can see that.
Like it wasn't sure what kind of film it was gonna be, you know? Like
Yeah.
like we're gonna be a comedy or a definitely a family movie of the '90s, but still it did feel a little more disjointed than some other movies I've seen.
One of the reviews I read on it said it's a bunch of wildlife footage with not much of a story in between.
It's not even that much wildlife footage though either.
But
I don't know. I think the story there could be good in a maybe longer format or something, or at least dialed down a bit more.
yeah.
Either stretched out longer or more concise. But I had fun watching it. It was, but I'm not sure if I'll go back to it.
Hmm.
There's movies I enjoy way more.
Like McHale's Navy.
Oh no, I would watch this over Mikhail's Navy.
I figured you would.
What about you?
Um, I like this movie.
Yeah.
I really do. I've watched it a handful of times in the last few years. And we like it a lot. I'm aware that it is not a great film, but it's always fun. I think it's a nice, fun film to watch. It's a relatable. I think from the perspective of Marshall, it's relatable, at least for me, being a youngest sibling
Okay.
and wanting to be included with what the older boys were doing, especially when you and Mike would get together and that whole trying to follow suit in that. Yeah, not really a lot of conflict, not really a lot of negative in it. It's just kind of a fun film with some good humor in it, and it's just yeah, it's enjoyable. It's an enjoyable, easy, kind of mindless watch.
Yeah.
Something I want to watch with the kids. Um, It's funny to me that this is the story of Marty Stouffer, and yet it's filmed from the perspective of Marshall.
Yeah, and Mark was a producer.
Yeah. And but to what you're saying of it, it definitely is a disjointed movie, and I think the biggest problem with it is they could not decide whether they were going to lean into the actual filming of the animals in the road trip or if they were going to focus on the home life. I think they needed to pick one.
Right. I feel like yeah, there was more of the home life, and maybe if they focused on one of the other brothers instead of Marshall.
Yeah.
Like, did we need the whole thing with the plane at the end?
No, the whole plain plot of the story could have been taken out, and that would have helped a lot because they could have filled all that in with either more character setup or town setup in the beginning, or
Right.
more footage of the road trip.
Right. Right. With it being Marshall's movie about the filming, I think you're right. The whole plane setup and everything could have been could have been cut out and left more to um animal footage, things like that, filming or developing the characters a bit more.
Yeah, and they didn't need the race either.
No, no, because we already got the we already got how they treat Marshall at the beginning.
Yeah,
Maybe they didn't need the extra part. I mean, that was kind of to introduce the college girls and the
didn't
how
need the college girls.
how DC is, huh? But they
Didn't
didn't
need
do
the
the college
college
girls.
girls.
Yeah,
Yeah, the college girls could have just showed up at the end, and they could have been like introduced with like, oh, the sisters are here
yeah,
and saw her film, and then the flirting could have happened, and
right,
it would have had the exact same effect. So there's definitely, I think they spent too much time at home before getting onto the road.
yeah.
I think
I
they could have had it down with them chasing Marshall and doing the couple of the prank. They could have done a couple of little prank things of how they just kind of treat him. Had one of they could have even had something where when they dropped him in the pool, one of his latches got stuck,
yeah,
and that be like, oh, Mark being like, hey, concerned for him, and Marty being like, oh man, that was great when that got stuck. That was a great shot. More,
yeah,
and that would have established more that he cares more about the filming than that his priorities are mixed up. So they could have done that. They could have done the movie night, and then they could have jumped right into the hunting scenario, and then right into telling Dad he was going to go. I mean, there's so many. They spent too much time at home, I think,
yeah. Nope,
to where
I
they.
get that.
Yeah. But yeah, I like it. It's a nice, fun movie to watch. Plan to watch it with the family, and I'll watch it probably again from time to time. Not a lot, but sometimes I'll be like, yeah, let's watch Wild America. That's a fun one.
Yeah, it's a lot of scenes strung together with a loose plot, like the that
Hmm.
review said. Um,
Yeah.
because there's not even that much animal footage. It's more just this happens, this happens, this happens, and there's not a lot of segue between the parts or how they get there.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and it's not as
And
good of a movie as I remember.
I think they could have laid out their trail a little bit better too, of
Let us know
saying,
where they are.
yeah,
Yeah.
but you know,
Yeah. Well, I think that wraps up our final thoughts. What do you think?
yeah, I think so too.
All right, and now we get into one of our favorite parts of this, where Marshall tells me what we're going to be watching next.
Yeah, and I am oh, I had a joke answer earlier, and I completely forgot what it was.
Terrific.
Interesting. So I've been thinking about this, and I know what I want my last movie to be, which will be the one after this one. And I've been going back and forth about what this um, second to last or penultimate of my choices is going to be. And I was going back and forth between an adventure movie or a comedy. Guess we just oh
Apparently, Marshall doesn't even know what our next movie is going to be at this point.
no, no, he does not. No, we are going to go with a classic from the 80s.
Okay.
Um, and I say classic. Yeah, yeah, it's a classic. I'm not gonna. Classic movie from the 80s, starring Val Kilmer and Warwick Davis.
I'm doing Willow.
We're doing Willow.
Actually, I just watched this recently.
Did ya?
I hadn't seen it forever, and Rachel wanted to watch it, and so we did.
Fantastic. Well, we're gonna
Yeah.
talk about it.
I did not see this coming at all.
one of my favorite movies growing up.
Just out of curiosity, this is the adventure movie, right?
Yeah, this is the adventure movie.
And what was the comedy that you were thinking?
Oh, I'm not gonna say that now because 'cause I'm doing it not next time, it'll be my first one of season 2.
Okay.
So, but yeah, we are doing the adventure movie Willow, um, which I am excited about.
I am too. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to actually getting into it and talking about it because like I said, I hadn't seen it since I was a kid, and I saw it one time in the last probably couple months.
Yeah.
So it'll be nice to look at it through the podcasting lens or the lens that we look at movies through when we're
Right, because when we're talking about them and doing the thing for the podcast, I feel like we look at them differently
yeah,
that from when we're just watching a movie.
yeah, definitely. All right, I'm excited,
Yeah,
and I guess that wraps everything up.
I guess that's it.
Well, thank you all for joining us on this adventure through Wild America. Like, rate, review, subscribe. I hear that helps. If you'd like to reach out to us, you
We
can do.
wouldn't know.
I said it. If you'd like to reach out to us, you can do so. watchitbropodcast@gmail.com, or you can reach out to us on Twitter at watchitbropod. We are also on Instagram and Facebook under the same handle. Our intro and outro music is provided by Nihilor, that intro being Grace, that outro being Haven. And as always, thank you for watching.